second Community Standards Workshop. I'm Stacy Phelps. I'm the Assistant Director of Residential Life. All right, our first speaker will be Dave Meyer from Public Safety.
I'm here to talk about you as you progress in your mission at Wesleyan to become an adult. It's been a trying time so far for all of us, I'm sure. And this year, as seniors, you may live in a wood frame house, and we're here to talk about the differences between a wood frame house and a residential hall. First of all, wood frame houses are just that. They're houses, they are not dorms. Don't have access control, they were built in the 1930s. So when you first move in there, it's important that you check and make sure everything works, doors, locks, windows, things of that nature, because these are older houses. They have been abused by your predecessors, as you will abuse them next year. So be aware of that. Your room door should remain locked. If somebody happened to get in the building, that's just another barrier for them before they can steal your stuff, which that's what they're there for. All these houses have, some of these houses have driveways. So if there's 4 of you in a house and you have 4 cars and the driveway only holds 2, we have an issue, right? Because the math doesn't jive. You guys got that far math, right? You went 4 minus 2. Oh. Anyhow, so you can't park on the lawn. You do have to register your vehicles, and you can't just block up the neighbor's driveway. Now, the most important reason you have chosen a wood frame house is you will be hosting the most magnificent parties on campus next year. You and all your senior-type friends over the age of 21 will arrive at your residence ready to partake in a keg of fine Keystone Light beer. At the time you tap that keg, about 800 cell phones will start ringing across the campus. And those first and second year students will descend upon your house like the locusts descended on Egypt. They will drink your beer, trash your house, and we'll end up coming over because you're in trouble. So it's very important that if you plan on having these wonderful social events, you take precautionary measures to make sure that you are in control of what is going on. I'm sure you all remember fondly your first week, couple weeks at school at Wesleyan, when you walked in packs of 40 and 50 looking for an adult beverage somewhere upon the campus. Just remember in September they will be doing the same thing at your house. The other thing about these houses is you are now living in a neighborhood, not in a zoo, like Clark called it. So it is important that you respect the fact that some of your neighbors are elderly citizens such as myself who go to bed at like 9 o'clock on a weeknight, and if we really get carried away, 10:30 on the weekends. We do get up before the crack of noon on Saturday and Sunday. So it is important that you respect your neighbors as they should respect you. Also, that is their house. They do not want to see 900 plastic red Solo cups on their lawn every morning. So make sure you do the good neighborly thing. And respect your neighbors and respect each other, because this is a much different living environment than you had in the past. Also, there are things called quiet houses, which I don't know how that really happens, but anyhow, if you were in one of those, you have to be extremely quiet. And you cannot have noise complaints, or you will find yourself back in the 2nd floor of Clark Hall in a quad, which I don't think is where you want to spend your senior year. With that being said, I will turn this over to Scott Backer, who will talk about party registrations for all these wonderful events you plan.
Hi everybody, as Dave said, my name is Scott Backer. So, as Dave said, I do want to talk to you about social events, but I want to talk to you about social events from the perspective of the SJB and of the student conduct process in an effort to keep you out of trouble. By the time you all live in, if you do end up living in a wood frame house next year, likely most, if not all of you will be 21 years of age or older. That being said, you are allowed to drink. That's just the way the law is written. If you're 21 or older, you can drink. It also means that you can have social events and drink. Our expectation in having those social events, in having your friends over to enjoy a couple of drinks, is that you are going to take some precautions. And the reason that you're going to take some precautions is because your responsibilities living in a wood frame house are much different than the responsibilities that you had when you lived in a more traditional residence hall or in a high-rise apartment or even in a low-rise apartment. When you host a social event at a wood frame house, and as Dave said, lots of people who potentially are uninvited, who potentially you don't even know, and will have limited control over their behavior, will likely show up. You, as a result of opening your doors, of turning on some music, of tapping a keg in your house, assume a good deal of responsibility for the behavior of those people. And that is a significant change that you all need to be aware of. And that's the reason that I wanted to talk to you about hosting events. Now, a lot of people, when I talk to them after the fact, if they have parties that are documented and have to come and have a conversation with me or the SJB or their area coordinator, will often say they didn't know they could register parties if they were going to have alcohol. All we ask of you is that you are letting us know when you're planning to have an event that will exceed 49 people if you're having it inside, or 75 people if you're having it inside and outside, so that we can be aware, public safety mainly, Dave's gone at this point, but it's mainly public safety that needs to be aware, so that if problems do arise, they can be prepared to address those issues. The registration process, and I'll draw your attention to the second page of the handout that you got as you went in, but that was a document that was created by members of the Student Judicial Board, amongst some other people, that talks about the benefits of registering your social event. I fully appreciate and understand the hesitation in letting somebody in public safety know, or somebody in the administration know, that you're having a party. I get it. You don't want to invite public safety to your party. But we expect that you're going to take some responsibility, additional responsibility for your actions. Now, the second page of that handout talks about some of the benefits of that, and the benefits really are to allow you to continue to have your event if you're taking some of the steps that we expect you to take, and unforeseen problems come up, uninvited guests come over, or excessive noise is created outside of your control. If you go through the registration process, if you're doing what we expect in terms of communicating with public safety about what's going on at your house, they're going to come over, they're going to help you address whatever problem's going on, and if you're reasonable and sober enough to help them address that problem, they're likely going to say, we'll help you take care of this, go on and enjoy the rest of the night. If you don't do that, when they respond to any issues and they see that you've exceeded 49 people inside your house or 75 people in and around your house, they're going to say, all of these people need to go home, and we're going to document the situation, and you're going to have to resolve the issue with the SJB and or your area coordinator. That's not necessarily our goal in this, but it is the policy, and we will respond to it. But you can take a lot of very small steps to make sure that you don't necessarily put yourself in that position. Make sense? The reason that we ask you to take some additional responsibility when you're having these events is because that's what's going to be expected of you as you leave here. Living in a wood frame house indicates that you are living in a more independent area. If you live in an apartment off campus, or as you graduate from Wesleyan and move on and live in either renting a place or by the time you own a place, if you host a party and there are underage people that are drinking there, guess who's going to be responsible if something happens? Or even if it doesn't? You are, right? So we have the same expectations of you. We're giving you the responsibility to take care of your space inside and outside, and that's because that's what's going to happen as you move on from here. All right, so that's the reason that we take the approach that we take.
All right, so for those who don't know me, my name's Christine Cruz, and I am the head of campus fire safety. I know, your favorite department on campus. Next to me is Al Sanastefano. He is the fire marshal for the city of Middletown. So we work very closely with fire alarm activations, fire drills on campus, lots of different activities that sometimes involve you guys, sometimes involve other buildings on campus. So he's going to talk to you guys in a few minutes about how you can prevent cooking alarms in your wood frame houses. And what I'm going to go through is kind of give you guys some information about the wood frames you're going to be living in, or prototypes. So first of all, there are many different types of houses out there, and there's different types of fire alarm systems within the houses. There are a handful of houses that have local smoke detectors, which is probably something you guys have at your houses at home, which means when it goes off, the only people that are aware that it's happening is the people living in the house. The other types is a full fire alarm system, but it is not monitored by anything. So it's going to be loud, your neighbors are going to hear it, and you're definitely going to hear it, but it's not going to notify anybody that it's going off. And the third type is a system connected, which means it is monitored by the fire department or a monitoring company. So as soon as that alarm triggers, everybody in Connecticut's going to know something's happening, and the fire department's going to show up at your door. So the thing that you need to keep in mind with any alarm that's happening is you guys definitely want to get out of the house no matter what type of noise is going off. And you definitely want to either call public safety or 911 and let them know that there is an alarm going off. Whether your system is connected or not, it's still safe to do that just in case the phone line's not working or something's not happening and the communication's not going through. Now, if you want to know which type of house you're going to be living in, the best way to find out is by this. This is called a West Home Notebook. Every single wood frame house has one, and it's right next to your front door in a nice metal or plastic basket. There is lots of other information in there, but for me, the most important information I need to pass on to you guys is what type of alarm system you have in your house. So on the very first page is where it will tell you what type of system you have and what you need to do when the alarm is going off. Other information that it has on here is your trash and recycling schedule, which Jeff will go over when he talks, but that information's on here. It's by street, and it gives you all that information. You also have heat detectors in your kitchens, not smoke detectors, so be aware of that. And you also have CO detectors, and the ones that have the CO detectors with a box that's connected to the system, there's a button that says push to test. Do not push to test. If you push that button, the fire department's going to show up with their meters going, and they're going to be looking for CO, and you're going to be like, oh, I just pushed that button to test it out. You don't want to do that. Trust me when I say they are tested before you guys move in. We know that they're working. You don't need to test them for us. You will have inspections. Just because you're living in a wood frame house doesn't mean that the rules don't apply, so be aware we will be coming through to do inspections. Again, in your West Home Notebook, it talks about what you are permitted and not permitted to have, so make sure you're aware of that, and that will help you avoid fines. Also, any house that is connected to a monitoring company or the fire department, first semester we'll go around. It's so much fun from 4 in the evening to 10 o'clock at night, and we will conduct fire drills. So you will get to see what your alarm sounds like, and we will make sure that you guys know what to do when it's happening and make sure that the signal's going through. So if you guys see that you're connected, we will be coming around in the first couple of months that you're there to test them out. So I'm going to let Al talk to you guys about how to prevent having a cooking alarm activation. And then we'll discuss some of the things that happens if you do have too many activations. So.
Right, the number one cause of residential fires in the United States is kitchen fire, cooking. So it is something that you should be aware of. It can be very dangerous in there. So a couple things that we recommend. First, the stove should be kept clean, the stove top. Chris and I last year went into one of the wood frames. They had about a ½ inch of grease in the well of the burner. So every time they turned that burner on, smoke just came up, got down the hall, and hit the smoke detector. and they wondered why they had activations at the building. Keep the stove clean. If you're cooking on top of the stove, try to stay in the kitchen or right in that immediate area. I've gone to more fires in kitchens where the people put a pan on the stove with the burner on, with some oil in there, and they figured they had 5-10 minutes, and they walked away into the living room to talk on the phone or whatever. Next thing you know, the smoke detector's going off and there's a fire in the kitchen. So don't leave that area. Stay in that area if you're cooking on top of the stove. Stay in that area. Keep the stove clean, like I said. Don't ever leave anything on top of the stove if the stove is off. Don't assume because it's off that you're safe. Once you leave something on top there, I've seen more times from houses where they didn't realize it, but the burner wasn't all the way off. It maybe took hours, maybe 8-10 hours before that pot started burning. Those metal pots do burn. I've seen it. They do burn. So don't leave anything on there and assume that it's safe because the burners are off. All kinds of things can happen with something on top of the stove. It's best to keep that stovetop clear of everything. Of course, on your counters, don't pile stuff up around the stove. Boxes of cereal or rice or whatever, don't put those too close to the stove. That burner gets very hot, and it can start a fire on it with the cardboard in those containers. Quite a few of the wood frames have sprinklers. Very good. Wesleyan did a good job with that. They've almost completed all of them, which is a very good thing. Don't hang anything from the sprinkler pipes. Don't hang anything from the sprinkler head. Don't put something up that's going to impede the sprinkler head if it trips off from doing its correct job and getting the water pattern out that it's supposed to. So if you have sprinklers in there, stay away from those, please. Nothing even to hang on those pipes, not even Christmas lights, nothing on those pipes, nothing at all. What you see in the movies, how they show a sprinkler head going off and then all of them going off, that doesn't work that way. Sprinkler heads are designed to go off from heat, 155 degrees most of them. So if the fire's in a small area in the kitchen and it pops the head, just that one head's gonna go off. Not every head in the building, just that one head. Unless another head further away from it hits the 155 degree mark, then that head will also go off, but usually it's just one head. So they're there for protection, they're there to keep the fire in check, not let it spread throughout the building. Sometimes it puts it out, sometimes, most of the time it just keeps it in that area. And that's what, then it's gonna set off the alarm and we're gonna show up. Any alarm goes off, like Chris said, in your building, call public safety or 911. Don't assume that it went to wherever it's supposed to go and we're on our way. Sometimes glitches happen and the signal doesn't get out. So just back that up by making a phone call to public safety or 911, let them know that your alarm's going off in your building. If it's a CO alarm, and even for a fire alarm, when you leave the building, shut the door behind you, especially for CO. Because once you open that door and the place airs out, when we get there, our meters are useless because you just let all the COs out if there was a big buildup of them. So we need the environment to be the way it was when the alarm went off. Maybe it was a malfunction, maybe it wasn't. We go through with our meters and we'll read. Maybe your furnace is malfunctioning and it's sending out COs throughout the building. We need to know that, so it's better for you to shut that door. Even with the fire, shut that door. Fires need air to grow. If you shut the door, it's not going to get a lot of air, so it shouldn't grow too quick. So those are simple little things that help. I think that's about it.
Okay. So another thing, you guys have hood fans. Most of the kitchens we were able to put hood fans in. Make sure you guys are using that, or if there is no hood fan, there's usually a window available. You want to ventilate while you're cooking so that the smoke doesn't build up enough to go into another room and trip the fire alarm system. So make sure you guys are aware of that. On the back of the first page actually talks about the cooking tips that Al talked about. It also talks about our policy. So we understand sometimes you guys it's the first time you're cooking, it's a different house than you lived in, so the ventilation is different. So you may tend to get one cooking alarm activation. That's fine, we'll brush that one off, no big deal. When the second one happens and the fire department's showing up again to the same house, that's when we start having concerns, especially if it's the same cook or if they see something happening when they're in there. Like Al said, if the stove's dirty or you have too much stuff piled around it. So your second activation, you'll get a nice little email saying you've now received a warning And we are probably gonna come over and check out the situation to make sure that your kitchen is suitable for cooking and that you're aware of what's happening. If you have a third alarm activation, we will unplug your stove until we get over to talk to you about what exactly is happening. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. How many of you think you know how many times the fire department has been on this campus this year alone? Any guesses? 16, way too low. Maybe 16 in one day, not in a whole time. So the fire department has been on this campus 255 times this year. There has been about 152 fire alarm activations due to cooking. Guess how many of those are in wood frames? 90%. 90% of those are cooking activations in wood frame houses. That's where you guys are going to be living next year. We want to teach you guys how to not have those occur while you're in there cooking. So taking these steps will definitely prevent that from happening. So if you do your part, the fire department would definitely appreciate not visiting here 255 times to deal with some type of nuisance alarm. They rather show up here to do something fun like set up their smoke trailer or do some fire drills or something like that. So anything you guys can do to prevent them from coming due to cooking, that would definitely be appreciated. And again, all this information's in your West Home notebook. Of course, you can always check out the Campus Fire Safety website. There's lots of information on there too. And we will definitely take questions if you want to come up to us after to discuss anything or, once everybody's done talking. So thank you very much for your time.
Hi, I am Gail Petrus, the Animal Control Officer here in Middletown. I come out to the Wesleyan campus quite often for animals found or lost or in distress. And I know they're going to talk to you about your pet policy here on campus, and I'm not here to really enforce your pet policy, but I'm here to encourage you to listen to the policy, because bringing pets into homes on college campuses, probably not the best idea for the pets. I know there's probably lots of animal lovers here and people who think it would be great to have a house pet, but from the sounds of it, there might be keg parties on campus, and who knew? Not a great environment when you have lots of people in and out of your house. It could be very stressful for an animal. They can get loose as people are coming and going and aren't really responsible for what's going on. So it's just really not the best thing for a pet. You might find pets on campus. We've had several students who have found roaming dogs, and we get them back to their owners. And I'm sure most of you know there's quite a few cats on campus, especially in the wood frame house areas, because you are living in neighborhoods with other residents. So please don't assume every cat you see outside is a stray that needs your loving care to take it in and feed it, because you may be taking in someone's pet that's right down the road. So if a cat looks healthy and friendly and is just hanging out, then leave it alone. Let it stay there. Once you start feeding it, it's going to want to stay where you are and not go back to where it came from. So if you just want to, let them be. If you see an animal that you feel needs care, if it's injured or looks very sickly or, is super skinny and really needs care, call public safety. They know how to call me. I'm more than happy to come out and check on any animals that might need care. Also, if you see little newborn kittens popping up, or if you think you see a cat that might be pregnant, please call right away, because we do absolutely try to step in those situations and get the animals out of here before it becomes a problem. So I think that's about it.
All right, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the pet policy. Can anyone tell me what kind of pet you can have on campus? Fish. In a 10-gallon or less tank. Those are the only authorized pets that you can have on campus. Now, due to an influx of pets that we found on campus this year, URLC has put in effect a new policy for pets. So anyone who has a pet that's found in their house or their apartment or their room, could be your pet that stays with you, could be your pet sitting, could be just a dog is visiting you. If you're caught with this pet in your residence, you and your roommates are subject to, for your first offense, a $300 fine and referral to Student Judicial Board. And if you have a second offense, it's a $500 fine and then further judicial action leading up to suspension potentially. So we just want to make you aware of this new policy. It came into effect in January. If you need some type of animal for medical reasons, there is a process through disability services, and you can see that it's on your handout that we gave you when you came in. Any questions about the pet policy? We'll get to questions at the end. But does anyone remember when you checked in, all the years you've checked in, getting a brochure like this? Sometimes it's black with like red lettering. Maybe you guys kind of saw it, maybe threw it away. Okay. All right, I'll take you at your word. This is renter's insurance. Renter's insurance is very important. It's important if you're living in a residence hall, it's important if you're living in one of our wood frames, and it's important for when you move on from Wesleyan and you're going to live on your own. Renter's insurance is what protects you and your belongings. If a pipe bursts in your house, the university is not responsible for paying for the damages and what gets ruined in your house. Renter's insurance will take care of that. Same thing with theft. You know, obviously, if, let's say your laptop gets stolen, the university is not responsible for replacing that. But if you have renter's insurance, they'll work with you to help replace missing items. Now, if you don't go through us, and you'll get a brochure like this, your parents or your families, if you have homeowner's insurance, sometimes you're covered under homeowner's insurance. So this is a great conversation to have with your parents when you get back in the summer to figure out if you need to have renter's insurance or not. And then the last thing I want to speak with you guys about is parking. We didn't have a very snowy winter this year, but the year before, I think everyone remembers how much snow we actually got. It was a ton. When we do get snow, when we do get ice, Middletown will announce that we will have a parking ban. And when there's a parking ban, you have to move your cars from the street, and you have to put them in the vine lot or in another lot. You can be towed and ticketed. We don't want to see you being towed or ticketed. So it's really important that you're paying attention to public safety when they send emails, or even when you're watching maybe the local news, that when they announce a parking ban, that you move your car immediately. The other thing you want to pay attention to is trash pickup and recycling pickup. There will be signs on the streets telling you what days to park in certain areas. I can't tell you on Home Ave how many cars I see ticketed, and the tickets are quite sizable for people who never move their cars because the garbage truck or a street sweeper was coming through. So you really need to pay attention to the signs so you make sure you're not being towed or ticketed. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Sweet. I'm from Physical Plant. I'm from the department that prepares your facilities for you when you enter in the fall. Just like now, in the areas that you live in now, there's an opportunity for you when you move in, right after you move in, to check your apartment or houses out to make sure if there's any deficiencies that were missed over the summer, for you to report them. There's a condition report that'll be forwarded to you from Residential Life. So it's very important that when you move in, that you go through the checklist, make sure that if there's anything you see that you need done, to report it, okay? That will, at the end of the year, when we go through and do our end of the year inspections, if we find any of those same deficiencies, so you don't get charged for them if you report correctly, okay? We go through every single room, every single common area of all residential facilities starting the day after commencement, and believe me, this year we will be there the day right before you move in. The door will be closed by us and you'll be moving in. That's how tight our schedule is. So every physical plant trade staff will be through your houses, and they'll be checking for safety and security items, locks, windows, lighting, all those type of things. So it's very important that you check these things out right when you move in, and to make sure that first of all, your security issues are being handled, okay? And then if you do have problems, just like now where you live, you can call our customer service department at extension 3400, and they'll send a tech out to make the corrections. Now, Chris had alluded to a lot of information in the West Home notebooks. There's a lot, that same information is in there, along with information on your trash and recycling. Now that you live in a house, you are going to be responsible for removing your trash and your recycling into the bins that are given to each house or apartment, and you're responsible for bringing it down to the curb and bringing it back up when it's been picked up by the city. There's a schedule in your West Home notebook, so that's something new to you, because right now most of you probably live in an area that we go through, our custodial staff cleans and removes those items for you. That's a big difference for the living conditions. Now, Some of the issues in the houses that we always run into are residents trying to get into basements and attics. Those doors will all be tagged that there's no access to basements and attics. There's a lot of hazards. Bill Nelligan, the next speaker, will talk about hazards and such, but basements and attics have a lot of our mechanical systems in them. So we don't want anybody down in there. I know it's a great place to store items, and it's a great place to have a party. But they're not accessible, and there is fines associated with it if you try to access them. Storage is what you get. What you see is what you get in the houses. Okay. There are, most houses have some nooks and crannies you can store some things in. Rooms have closets and such. So it's a little different than a dorm room. You're not going to have such a small area. Most of the rooms are fairly sizable. Other issues that we deal with is furniture. All bedrooms and common areas of wood frame houses are furnished, okay? Another thing about when you get here and you open your bedroom door, make sure all the furniture that's supposed to be there is there, and report it if it's not. Each room should be fully furnished, and the living room's furnished as well. And I think I alluded to the custodial service, and the last thing I want to talk about is painting. We run into a lot of problems in the summer of trying to paint over walls that students painted purple or fuchsia or something. All the colors of the rooms are a boring Wesleyan white, and we like them to stay a boring Wesleyan white because it's easier for us to maintain. A lot of these houses we have minutes to get through in the maintenance for summer maintenance and such. So we just ask for your help on that. This is, like I said, your first. A lot of people talking to you about your first dive into independent living, and this is about as independent as you get here at Wesleyan. Our services are very little. You're expected to clean your own areas, but like I said, if there's something that's deficient, things that need to be repaired, please call 3400. It should be embedded in your head by now after 3 years. So, questions at the end? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're 35 minutes into the afternoon. For those of you who have stayed awake, that's good. Most of you, look, I can see faces. This is excellent. My name is Bill Nelligan. I'm the Director of Environmental Health, Safety, and Sustainability here at Wesleyan. I'm here to talk to you about a whole range of things, but I want to start off with the heaviest thing first. How many science majors do I have? So we're going to talk about an element that you're about to move in with. Okay, anybody know what the heavy element on this chart is? Lead. Who said lead first? Right here in the front? Okay, catch. I'll try one in the back. Quick, get it. See, I was not a baseball player, unfortunately. Lead. You will find lead disclosure when you open your GRS and try to pick out whatever house you want to live in. There's going to be a form there that you have to read and sign and acknowledge before it allows you to go any further. Okay, so that's our lead disclosure. How many of you will be living in a house built prior to 1978? Okay. There's about maybe 25 of you that won't be. The rest of you will be. 1978 is a big year in my environmental world. EPA came out with lead regulations in 1978, said after January 1st, 1978, you will no longer be able to buy lead-based paint. We don't want it in the country, we don't want people eating it, we don't want people being exposed to it, and that's generally it, okay? So if your house was built before 1978, we assume there's lead-based paint in it. I have not tested every surface in every house, but I have tested enough to tell you that there's a lot of lead paint out there. How is it a hazard to you as an adult? Anybody know? It's a heavy metal. So, how is that going to affect your system? Where's my biologist? Destroys your kidneys. Okay, so as an adult, how are you going to get that lead into your kidneys? Drink it or don't eat it. Eating it. If you're older than the age of 6, you should know what not to put in your mouth. Paint chips is one of those things, okay? And then the last thing I want to say is to tag on to what Mr. Meyer was saying about the 40 or 50 students that will descend upon your wood frame houses. They're freshmen. They may not remember that they're not supposed to eat the paint. Remind them of that. And if you see them chewing on the woodwork, call physical plant so that they'll fix the woodwork and not charge you because it was some other freshman who's frothing at the mouth with white paint all over their face. Okay? GRS, lead paint disclosure, it's in there. More exciting things though to talk about from a sustainability standpoint. We have a competition. You're going to be moving into a wood frame house. You are now eligible to play Do It in the Dark. Okay? And all the different ways that you can play Do It in the Dark. But the way I want to talk about is energy. How are we going to save energy in your house? There's lots of ways you can do that. One of the ways I do not want you to play with energy in your house is I do not want you trying to heat the kitchen with the oven. Okay? That has happened on this campus before. I don't want you opening the windows as a mode to regulate heat. Okay, so some of you will live in a house that has probably a heating system from the 1950s. And so that means it's really, really hot. And some of you in res halls know that when it's really hot in your rooms, it's really hot. So we're talking 80 degrees. Don't regulate the heat by opening the window, because what that does is that sends energy into the system. You're burning fuel oil, you're burning natural gas to send heat to other places in the house that we don't really want it. So if you have a problem with your heating system, call Physical Plan. What number? 3400. I can't throw that far, sorry. I'll leave it down here, you can come get it later. Okay. 3400, that's the number to call. They'll take care of your heating and cooling needs, okay? Also, water conservation. We replaced last summer toilets, urinals, little aerators and sinks all over campus to save 15 million gallons of water a year. That's what we estimate just that change-out savings alone. That's a lot, thank you. I can reach you, that's good, here. Oh, I gotta get heavier candy, that's really what I gotta do. Make it go further. So, 15 million gallons, there's still room for savings though. How can you save water in a wood frame house? Shower with who? Exactly! Shower with who? Be friendly in the shower. Okay, don't use so much water. Don't flush 4 or 5 times. If you're putting something in the toilet that needs 4 or 5 flushes, think about where else that could go instead of in the toilet. Okay? Water. Don't water your lawn, don't water your car, don't water your dog that you're not allowed to have anyway because eventually we're going to catch it. Okay? Save some water. Save electricity. How many of you automatically shut off a light when you leave a room? Good, that's awesome. I'm gonna leave all the candy down here, first come, first serve, whoever wants it. Make it a habit, shut the switch off when you leave the room, okay? Many of our buildings are on timers, and so 30 minutes after somebody leaves the room, the light automatically goes off. Not true in the wood frames. What you're gonna find is just the opposite. We have lights on in wood frame houses that there's no way to shut them off. And I'm trying to address that, but if you find it in your room, in your house, let me know. It's usually a hallway light. So there's no on-off switch, it's on 24/7. So CFLs is something that we really encourage you to bring with you. If you're bringing a lamp, some kind of light fixture into your new wood frame house, make sure it's a CFL and not an incandescent lamp, or an LED. The LED technology is amazing lately, too. Do in the dark. Where are you gonna buy the really good stuff for your wood frame house though? Waste Not! I can't reach you, I'm sorry. I can get maybe 2, but Waste Not! When is the Waste Not sale? Sometime in September. I don't have a date yet, but we're working on it. So Waste Not, come and buy your good stuff from us. 4th, 5th, 6th generation couches from Wesleyan. They're a little stained, but they're still usable. You know, it's good. It's good when you pour a beer on it and the beer just rolls off because, you know, it has some kind of natural adhering system to it. I think I've missed something. Cooking, we've talked about cooking. How many of you are professional chefs? Okay, so for the 3 or 4 people that put their hands up, what's the only thing you do with high on the stove burner? Not onions, definitely not onions. Boil water. Once the water's boiling, you turn it down. Nothing else gets cooked. I know the fire department was out several years ago when I had an office in high rise for the person who just tried to cook a full pound of bacon on the top of their stove on high. True story. Didn't work. Didn't work, okay? Computers, interestingly enough, we have been trying to upgrade electricity in the wood frame houses, so there might be more than 1 outlet in the house. You might be fortunate enough to have 2 outlets. Okay, so think about how many things you're bringing with you that plug into the wall. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Campus Fire Safety has very specific rules on the types of extension cords you can bring. I would really encourage you to get a surge suppressor as well to plug your stuff into, because it's fused and hopefully it has a GFCI on it, and that way you won't burn electricity on your paper or wall hangings that you're not supposed to. Questions? Do in the dark, ways not. Lead, disclosure, right? You're gonna sign that. Make sure. If you have any questions about lead in your house, please give me a call. Like I said, I have not surveyed every single house, but I do have surveys for many, many, many of your houses. Questions? I think we're at the end.